One thing I've noticed, especially on social media and stuff, is that a need for everyone to be productive, and I, especially at this time for me, I can't be as productive because I'm scared about the future. My industry might not be there, you know. I might not have work for all of me after this. I might have to completely change my life. And then everyone's saying to be hopeful, but I just want to be told I don't have to be hopeful, you know. I suffer from depression and anxiety.
I suffer from acute health anxiety.
I was 19 and I was raped.
I feel it actually probably started when I was 10, because I was 10 when I was suddenly, like, it seemed to happen overnight, I suddenly had an autoimmune disorder. And from then on, my life quite drastically changed in terms of needing medicine, needing constant checkups.
I have depression, anxiety, and PTS.
So I have a condition called fibromyalgia, which is an autoimmune condition.
I am 2 years out of a 6-year emotionally abusive relationship. And I also have, unfortunately, pre-existing trauma from boarding school.
And I also have issues with depression and anxiety.
I'm in recovery from anorexia and a domestic abuse survivor as well. That's the first time I've ever said that out loud. That feels really weird.
So I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder.
So I was heavy growing up, and I'm a twin.
I was in an abusive relationship for just over 2 years.
Severe anxiety disorder, specifically severe adjustment disorder.
And basically we had absolutely no friends and everyone just called us fat, and it was horrible. And we decided to lose some weight.
I was in a really, really abusive relationship.
And basically started this kind of weird romance. He fueled it basically by saying that I was fat and that I need to look a certain way and all this kind of stuff. And he was once smoking in my room, and I remember being like, can you stop please? And he put the cigarette out on my chest, and I've still got the scars now. And so it's kind of that association of like my body being worthless and never quite up to scratch.
Obviously, if you've got a health anxiety and then a global pandemic happens, it's kind of like, I prepared my whole life for this. But then when it's actually happening, like something serious is happening, and I kind of shut down for a little while.
Most of my condition focuses on the unpredictable and worrying about not being in control of what happens to and around me. However, my world is now entirely predictable.
It's so my fibromyalgia, it's constantly there. I am constantly in pain.
I've been made redundant. I've completely lost my job. And so all I do is try and find ways to distract myself from thinking about what I'm eating or how long I can get away with not eating.
The depression and anxiety is so much I haven't got all the distractions and the routines and the projects that keep me on a sort of even keel.
It has brought home that any issues I had with my previous partner, I need to examine very clearly, as we're in lockdown in a studio apartment, so everything is kind of under a microscope. But I'm very lucky.
I kind of have a lot of fear about coming out of lockdown, because when you're trapped in a house, you're safe from the outside world, you're safe from men, safe from all of that and the harassment.
It's pointed out to me recently that there are definitely very clear psychological triggers between this experience and the experience of being at boarding school. Being unable to see your family without it being in your control as to why.
I've kind of gone off social media a bit more. I've been a lot better with that, because I always find social media very hard, and that's really helped.
I just do think, had this happened during that abusive relationship, whether irreversible damage would have been done to me, and that kind of scares me. And it's happening to women right now.
I can't 100% trust any man. I just can't, because of everything that I've been through. Because it's not just the traumas. I mean, you know, as a woman, I've been sexually harassed multiple times, and I think most women have. It's just kind of something we go through.
So fibromyalgia doesn't have any cure.
So I remember ringing up like the wellbeing centre at my uni, and you know, because I was really proud of myself. It was the first time that I'd actually reached out and kind of like admitted that there was something wrong. And like they were like, well, we're going to refer you to these clinics, all of which were private and expensive. And yeah, I was really angry.
And so my experience has generally been one of like sympathy and wanting to help, but they have to see so many people, and there's only so much that they can do.
It turns out I have vaginismus and vulvodynia, but I was in so much pain all the time, and it took me 2 years to find a GP who would take me seriously enough to refer me to a specialist.
Doctors wouldn't refer me on to higher up services. I think they just thought, oh, she's just a bit hormonal.
I tried getting cognitive behavioural therapy through my university's psychotherapy support team, but unfortunately the waiting list was too long and I wasn't able to get it.
But then after the rape, I got, so many referrals thrown at me and medication. And I was just like, oh, so that's what it takes to get the treatment you need.
Prior to university, I had a nervous breakdown, which meant that I ended up in therapy 3 times a week for 2 to 3 years. That was my original diagnosis at the time. And at the time I thought I was mental. I didn't really know how to process that I would need so much therapy. I knew that I was unwell, but not that unwell.
It took 2 years for someone to take me seriously, and even then I had to self-refer.
Lots of the time they just think I'm a silly girl, and that I kind of oh, she just wants to be thin because, she's a girl. But at the same time, I think men always get horrendous pressure to have a certain body type.
I wonder if I was a man doing it, whether I would receive kind of more attention, because men need to talk about their mental health.
I feel like it's a big part of why it took me a lot longer to be taken seriously, and it sticks with me, and it will always stick with me. And once I got the treatment, it was phenomenal, and the NHS is a brilliant thing, but I just couldn't get these doctors to listen to me. They just wouldn't listen. It was so tough.
I struggled endlessly with being told by health professionals that my anxiety was just PMS and I just need to ride the storm.
I think a lot of the time they just think women are being silly and just wanting attention, which isn't the case,
At a base level, women know themselves, and if a woman is saying something wrong, something is wrong!
Just listen and help, not ignore and condescend.
One of the reasons why I actually didn't report my ex-boyfriend is because of this. It is so difficult to get a case to court. And it's so difficult to prove something that's gone on behind closed doors.
The prejudice and kind of toxic nature of fat shaming and thin culture is still, it's still there.
It's more, my family. My mother's very much like, oh, we didn't have mental health conditions in our day. People just got on with it.
There is genuinely a recognition that people with eating disorders are going through absolute hell at the moment.
The mental health system is underfunded and people don't have access to the things that they need. But I consistently feel that people are trying their best. It's just sometimes not enough.
And also the recognition of domestic violence and the horrible nature of it during lockdown, and people not being safe whilst in isolation has been really amplified, which, thank God, like Jesus Christ, thank God.
There's a lot more high profile people have started to get fibromyalgia or say they have it, and it really has affected them. So that's been quite useful, because so often it's you with fibromyalgia because it makes you not trust your body, it makes you not trust your own thoughts.
I feel like mental health is often disregarded as whining or just snowflakes complaining.
There's been a huge push, and quite rightly, about how this is affecting mental health, particularly because everybody is suddenly out of their routines, whether you've experienced mental health problems or not.
I feel like people are understanding more about what anxiety is, and are being less degrading.
I just started this thing before this all happened where I was able to sit, and if I felt the anxiety in the room that day, I would just tell people, like an interview or something. Once that was in the room, it just felt so much better.
At the moment, I'm finding joy in cooking, and I love making new vegan food.
Oh, something I've been doing is at weekends, wearing normal clothes and put a bit of makeup on and having a bit of normal life, a little snippet of it, which is, helped me. And something I try to do every day is write 5 things I need to do. Some of them can be really easy, like just so it feels like I've achieved things, but also try not to beat myself up when I don't achieve things.
And yeah, it's filling my feed with only positive messages. That's a really key one for me.
Yeah, obviously talking to friends and family and being nice to yourself. I think it's so easy to be angry with yourself when it happens again, because it's like, am I not over this yet? But being angry with yourself is pretty pointless, I feel.
One main piece of advice is everyone's going to put on weight during this time. Don't beat yourself up about it. You don't need to have this perfect body when you come out of lockdown.
Just try and stay calm. Just try and think of things that you like, things that you know for certain, what you know is fact. After my previous relationship ended, I spent a lot of time really trying to force myself to think about what I knew to be true factually.
And you're not alone. You're not alone. Women are fantastic. It's so tough, but I love being a woman. I love it, and we're all here for each other. We should all be here for each other.
And drink tea. Tea is very good.
Talk. I can't say it enough. Even just mundane chit chat. Listen to others, listen to yourself, and be strong. We will all be okay.